What's good, everybody? Off the Menu Podcast, episode 122.
That's good.
I'm here with my brothers, my co-host, Tay.
Hello, everyone.
There we go. Moose.
Hey.
And a very, very special guest, Kuya, Alan, creative director, artist, entrepreneur, activist, you could say. Big stepper, go-getter, going crazy. My brother, appreciate you being here, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm stoked to be here. Hell of an intro. That was sick. I was immersed in that, man. That was awesome.
Thanks. It's crazy because I've known you for a while now.
Totally.
And I've seen like the things that you've done from the sideline. And because you're a good friend of one of my brothers, Osiris. You grew up with him around that East Side Olympus. And you've always been in that creative realm, pushing boundaries and being very artistic and letting it be known and shown. Like, I remember like Alibi, Kilby Court Block Party.
Yeah.
You had that little thing there
first
too.
gig ever, man.
Yeah.
That was our first gig ever.
Exactly. I remember that. It was, you had it on the side. I think Cindy was helping you out and she's doing DJing now. Like it's great what you're doing because you're diving into like Asian culture and then trying to help people shed light on the creative people that we have.
Totally.
And like, I appreciate that a lot, actually.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Yeah, I didn't realize you were close with Osiris. He and I go back. We did like Camp Anytown, which is like a really crazy, I don't even know how to describe what we went through. It was like a social justice camp. But yeah, I've always been involved in the arts for the same reason I've been involved so heavily with like people of color in Salt Lake. I think art's kind of our way of, I don't want to say resisting, but it's kind of a fight to have your own identity or be in touch with your culture when you're living in a place like Salt Lake City, Utah. You know, that's why I gravitate so much towards people of color and artists. There's kind of this like identity crisis when you don't fit the two lanes that are, you know, kind of scripted in living here.
It's how it was growing up. It's either like you were Mormon and you went to church and you hung out with those kids and you played sports.
Or you're the devil.
Or you were a hood rat and you were doing bad things and this. You know.
I prefer devil than hood rat.
Yeah, hood rat hurts, dude.
Yeah,
you know?
Just the rat hurts him.
Fuck you. Yeah.
No, man, that's a good point because I grew up in Glendale. Like a lot of people, I think that grew up in Rose Park or Glendale and Salt Lake. We migrated from Southern California just for like cost of living. But what people don't really realize is like Glendale and Rose Park, it's kind of like a gypsy town for a lot of people. So much gang culture was brought over there, like a lot of like norteños, like TCG, like that's a lot of what I was surrounded by growing up. So it was kind of that narrative, right? It's either you're kind of, you know, Molly, Mormon, porcelain, whatever, or you're like a gangster straight up, drug dealer, whatever it is. So it means a lot to be kind of a part of what I feel is a movement with a lot of people kind of pointing out there's other paths, right? Like you can be a person of color and still be a good person for your community, do arts, do these things. Like we're just really proving there's so many other ways of living here. It's getting more supported and I don't know, it's empowering. I think that's what keeps me going and like getting me connected with guys like you guys. It's been fun, man. It's been a blast.
Yeah, I think it's awesome, man. Before we get ahead of ourselves, we do like to start this off with who are you and what do you do? Yeah,
I'm Kuya Allen. I'm an artist. I own a creative agency, Downhouse. I'm a fashion designer, run 2 brands. Just got booked for actually Asian New York Fashion Week next year.
Really?
So Asian New York Fashion Week 2025.
February or September?
September.
Wow.
Yeah, man.
That's tight.
Awesome.
So Asian New York Fashion Week next year. Just launched Mutiny Made. That's what I'm wearing right now.
Yep.
I'm partnering with these guys, Danny and Alex, that run Mutiny. They're the guys, if you're in Salt Lake and you saw the Fear Factory raves, that's them. They just threw Chris Lorenzo. We just got back from Wendover.
Yep.
Yesterday, bro.
We were going to go today.
You should. It was fun, man.
Today.
We literally all mobbed down to Wendover, sold out show, booked out the entire hotel casino. The event space was on the same floor as all the hotel rooms.
It's crazy.
Chris Lorenzo played the 6 hours straight, the main event and the after.
Bro, yeah, he was telling me that. I was like, 6 hours straight is crazy.
Dude, he was ripping
and not playing the same song once during that 6 hours.
No, dude. And he was having a fucking blast, too. Because this is like stop number 6 or something for him.
His tour?
Yeah.
type thing. Yeah.
Those are the guys where you're like, dude, they really found out how to just make their work play. Like
Yeah.
he just fucking loves what he does. And it's contagious. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You can tell he loves doing what he does. That's how he can play. I think he started, 9 p.m. Event ended 5 a.m. Everyone just
That's a whole
That's
shift.
crazy.
Bro. That's a whole ass
dude,
shift.
him the whole time.
No breaks.
No breaks.
Oh my god.
That's
Yeah, we'll
insane
break
to me.
to, go from main floor to the afters, but dude, he was
Switch
running
floors,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's cool. So it's guys like that. You know, I also run the BIPOC club at Edison House. So that's kind of the two worlds I live in. I do a lot in the underground culture with EDM, but I also kind of have to play the higher class. You know, like Edison House, it's like an exclusive members club. I do my fine art dealing there. That's where I make a lot of my other connections where, I kind of have to suit up. My partner is Ava Lopez. She's the city councilwoman for District 4. So she's our vice president for BIPOC Club. That's where you've seen some of those events, hopefully collaborating with you, Pearson,
Yeah.
for events like that as well. So I don't know, just like a lot of hats. And I guess all in the name of pushing what we're talking about, right? Just kind of proving there's like a way. There's like a way to just live authentically. And I think live in a way that's people haven't super seen before.
Yeah.
I think it means something different being a creative in Salt Lake than it does maybe in LA or New York. I have friends where it's like almost kind of weird if you don't have a podcast and you're living in LA. You're like, what do you like? You don't do shit.
Yeah.
But it just means something different here to where like you doing something creative at least 5 years ago was not supported financially. Like, your family doesn't approve of it. Your friends think you're weird. You know what I mean? So,
100%.
so if you're just completely kind of being, you can't nurture like a creative mind here. The ones that are left over, like there's something special about them. And I think it's kind of their time that those people are being discovered more and more. And they're seeing that flavor, not just in Salt Lake, but I mean, all over. There's like DJs coming here from LA, New York, played everywhere in the world. And they're doing shows with who I'm telling you, like the Mutiny guys.
Yep.
And they're like, holy fuck, Salt Lake throws down so different.
Yeah.
You'd never expect it, but they throw down so different.
I'm so happy Mutiny has became a thing. And I don't know how long it's been for them. Do you have an idea?
Not super long, man.
It's like a couple years, right?
Well, their very first show was during the pandemic. They're the ones that did Roll and Rave. So that was a beautiful inception to, them starting what they started because, we're all in lockdown and they figured out to do a drive-through rave. They did like this 6 feet apart. So you rolled up to a rave in your cars and that's, yes, dude. And, and that's,
I can't even comprehend that.
it was fucking wicked, but it meant a lot because, height of the pandemic, what does everyone want to do? They miss live music. They miss just being a part of people and that energy. And, they came up with a solution. It was that. It's like, dude, just keep them in the fucking cars.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
You just barely broke into the scene though.
That's true. I didn't really start raving until like 2 years ago. 2021? 2020?
Yeah.
2022.
So it was like a year
Yeah.
before you started, man. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
2022, yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Roll and Rave. Where the fuck was that at?
I don't know where it was because it was before my time too. Because we actually started in the scene similar times, I think.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, because actually the Glow Gala, that fashion show,
There we go.
that was kind of my inception of like, I went to film school years and years ago, but I think that was me kind of entering, the creative scene here in a more meaningful way. That's where I first met you. Glow Gala, that's Osiris and Jermaine running that. But since then, dude, 3 years ago, it's hard to find anything to do. I remember feeling so privileged just following the right pages on Instagram so that there is something to do on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck yeah. I'm like one of the only homies that like know where to go Saturday night besides a fucking house party. But now, dude, it's like, and you guys are probably in similar seats. You want to support your friends and people throwing events. It's gotten to that stage where you're going like 4 events a night.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just trying to support and like, again, like total privilege, right? But, and also a sign of what's going on is like, it's working. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of cool curated shit coming up from like the right people that I think are leading it. But man, it's getting hard to keep up. Yeah. Be involved in
Can't
all
be
that.
at more places
Dude,
than one,
I was telling Tay, October was such a long month for me, dude.
I fucking bet, dude.
Dude, October was brutal. As fun as it was just Halloween was the whole month for me.
Yes, dude.
And there was just so much shit going on that I had to be at and
Yeah.
support and show up for and show face. And it's just like, holy
Yeah, that was a joke in our crew that Halloween's 30 days long. You know what I mean? Like as soon as it hits, like same thing. Grinding, I did Get Freaky. I was like live screen printing shirts.
I should have pulled up on you, bro. I was there for one day.
Dude, you should have.
I was trying to find your station. I was walking around.
I was by like literally the main merch booth. V2 hit me up to come on. I got to do some of my custom
Oh, there we go.
clothes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun, and it was sentimental for me because my first rave ever was Get Freaky.
Really?
Like close to 10 years, that aged me, but like close to 10 years ago.
Wow.
For sure.
Really? 10 years ago?
Yes, dude. Yeah. Yeah. I was 18, man. Yeah. Like senior year of high school. That was like my first rave ever. And that, you know, you're fucking graduating high school. So I was like, oh my God, I'm like my own person. I can like have my own thoughts and do whatever I want. And then, you know, 10 years later, I'm a part essentially of the event, like doing my art.
Full circle moments.
You know, I'm like feeding my family by like printing Jesus on t-shirts. You know what I mean? Like it's just such like a crazy, it's just like this crazy full circle moment, you know? And I think like so much of my life is intertwined with Salt Lake and its success. I have an 8-year-old son right now. He's about to turn 9. And I moved here from LA. I grew up in Anaheim, 2002 when the Winter Olympics were here.
Yeah.
So 2034, when we have Winter Olympics in Salt Lake City, my son will be 18.
Oh,
so
wow.
it's this crazy. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so
that
it's this
number
crazy
shit,
moment
yeah.
where I'm like, I moved to Salt Lake 02 as the age he is right now. And when he kind of has that same moment, hopefully, that I talked about 18, where you're like, holy shit, I'm my own adult. I have to figure my fucking life out. The Winter Olympics will be happening. Hopefully you can look at the stuff that I've built and just like ways that I've been able to impact the city.
Yeah.
You know? So I've really put my roots down here. I'm sure you guys have faced like similar questions, like why stay in Salt Lake, especially when we do what we do, because arguably you could go to LA or New York and there's a lot that's, you know, I want to say easier. Obviously it's so saturated. There's a lot of competition, but there's more support. There's like more resources. It's kind of, it's more figured out there. There's the infrastructure in the other states. So why would you stay in Salt Lake City? Why wouldn't you just come back when it's kind of more built?
Yeah.
And for me, it's because I want to be a part of
The building process.
the building.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because then you kind of get to author it with other people.
Yeah.
You get to kind of decide like what kind of people do I want, you know, to be looked up to here? Like what are we saying culturally are good role models? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And hopefully what we're a part of right now is that like people of color are a really strong part of that narrative, right?
Yeah.
This process I'm talking about of when you're in an environment that doesn't accept you, doesn't really have, you know, many instructions for how you should be or where to go. It's a bunch of people that just wrote it themselves.
Yeah.
You know, they're like, all right, if I have no instruction manual for life, I'm just going to write my fucking own.
Yeah.
And hopefully that process, helps other people that look like you, grew up with similar backgrounds, or even if they don't, they're people that can see it and like, okay, I can figure it out myself.
Yeah.
You know, if there's no teachers, I can figure it out myself. So
Yeah.
I don't know. That's what keeps me here. It's fucking, it's getting harder and harder to deny that something is really, really happening in Salt Lake City. You know?
Yeah, we go through this
Feel the same
phase.
way,
We go through it all the time. You know, as creatives in Salt Lake, it's so hard sometimes to like really want to stick it out. But we know it's around the corner. We know what we're building is worth. It's going to be worth it at the end of the day. I have this ongoing battle with myself internally every single day. It's like I can just do this in LA. I can just do this in New York. I can leave right now
Vegas,
and I can do something with myself. But then I always have this internal battle with myself saying, no, I need to be here and finish what I started.
Yeah.
You know,
Totally.
and it's being part of that path where Michael McHenry once said with us, he's like, we don't have enough finishers here. We have a lot of people that run, but we don't have enough people making it to the end. And then, so from that, and he was an early guest.
That's good.
He was an early guest, and
Yeah.
every time I feel like, damn, I really don't want to do anything here anymore.
Right.
I think about what he said. I'm like, all right, I just got to see to finish on at least.
Totally.
I got to make sure what I'm doing plans out the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I think that's why like me and you connecting, because again, we've been in each other's peripherals, me and Harrison for fucking like 4 years now.
Yeah.
But it's cool because in that time you see really quickly like who's like in it, you know, and then who tried and it's not for them.
Yeah.
Because it takes a lot, you know, because there's no glamour in it. I'm barely seeing a little bit, but it's like, you know, after 4 years, and it's not enough to sustain someone from doing something either, right? Like if I double, tripled my income right now, it's in being a full-time artist, it wouldn't be enough. It has to be all these other ways that I'm feeling impact, which like people coming up to me and being like, yo, like I kind of started getting into this shit because I've been like following you along. You know, like here's this Asian kid modeling in fucking Utah. You know what I mean? And then like doing this art and doing this whatever. You know, so like what's really cool is what you're talking about. Like the people that finish, they create so much space for other people to come in and do the same thing and arguably have it, I don't want to just say easier, but they can you can pass it along.
Yeah.
You know, I think a lesson I'm learning right now is that I think finishing it is a collective effort.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
it's more like, what's that racing when you hand like a fucking baton over?
Relay
Relay race?
Relay.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
like
yeah.
that, you know, it's like, cause I've had those moments where like, you know, I took like almost a year off.
Yeah.
Like essentially where I'm like, yo, I'm burnt, I'm like almost bankrupted myself. Like started this scene with like my ex is who I started this creative agency with. We split. So there's just so much. I'm like, dude, am I like really still in it? But what was cool to see is that even though I took a step back, everyone else kept going.
Yeah.
And that was so encouraging. And it was encouraging in the sense too that I wasn't necessarily left behind. Like so much of it felt like, oh fuck, now that I'm back and I can kind of like show up, you know, there's still space for me, you know, and there's so much more to add on to. And I think that kind of encouraged me to like run even faster and like do the same thing, you know? So
That's beautiful.
yeah, it's cool what we do, right? Because what we're talking about, when I say movement, I think movement, it is like a collective effort. It's this thing that goes on whether or not you're a part of it. And I think something that I see really clearly is if I did leave Salt Lake, same thing, it would happen without me and I'd really regret not being a part of it. And then the thing I was trying to chase, if I convinced myself I'm going to find it somewhere else, like LA or New York, the truth is, I would just go there and be a diet version of like somget else anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
When you can be your full self here.
Exactly. You
Something
can
that's
be
essentially
something
there
new.
already.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. 100%.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of creative, not to say that they're not different or they're the same, but I feel like, you'd go in a place where like you may do something differently, but the whole general idea of it is like, oh, there's somebody there that does this already.
Well, it gets harder to innovate. So like, another leg of this is how I funded everything is I've worked in tech for the last 4 years. And it was actually Mark Zuckerberg that came here for a tech summit to Salt Lake. He was the keynote speaker and he went on this whole speech about how San Francisco, like Silicon Valley, he was like, every great thing that was going to happen in that city happened already.
Yeah.
Like he said that. He's like, dude, it's a monoculture. Everyone has the same ideas. Like they're kind of behind the times. And then that was all to say that he's like Salt Lake City or Utah is the next big place for tech. That's Silicon Slopes. That's like so much. And there's so much culturally there that's interesting, right? It's like you have really amazing salespeople coming from the Mormon church. Cause like, dude, going door to door on your mission 2 years and in another language, like that makes good salespeople just
Say
does.
that, yeah, because
You
it
know what I'm
makes
saying?
sense. It makes sense.
Yeah, and that's culturally like how, again, we can have like a different kind of taste on what to provide these other big industries coming up. So in that same way, I really believe in people of color in the creative industries like fashion, art, and music in Salt Lake have that own flair too, right? It's this practice in how can you find yourself, how can you be authentic to yourself when there's really none of the world that'll have you or kind of accept you for that. There's a fight to it, you know. There's no room made out for you, so you have to make room. And I think in you know the creative industries, that's huge. It's like art as like a weapon, like art as like a revolutionary act. You know?
Yeah. So you'd say that being obviously, I think we can all relate, but just a question. Growing up as Asian American, you feel like you've been battling with this problem your whole life where you don't know where you fit in?
Yeah, I think it's been a lot better since I've discovered art in its full form. I'd say I'm pretty healed from that.
Yeah.
But that's its roots for sure. You know, I was the only Asian kid in my middle school. Most of my middle school is either Polynesian or Mexicans. Everyone just thought I was high. You know, was like the joke, like literally, you're like, are you like high, Chino? I'm like, no, bro, like Chino, fucking like fucking Chino or Chinito. That was like my name growing up. Chinatown, you know, like all this stuff. But that's what I'm saying. You have these mislabels being put on you, and it's this thing that takes a toll after so long, to where there's so many people telling you what you are, and you know they're wrong.
Yeah.
But you also don't really have the rebuttal for that yet.
Like,
you haven't discovered yourself yet. So you also don't I know you're wrong, but I also don't know what's right yet. You know what I mean?
I get what you're saying.
But that's what this journey is, you know? So like going into fashion, so much of that for me started as a model. It was just really simply like, I just want more pictures of other Filipino people out there.
Yeah.
Right? That we're like signing off like this is an attractive or at least a stylish person. Because I know how much that does. You know, I'm sure you guys relate. You go into a barber shop and all of the pictures are of like white people's haircuts. And then you point out one, I'm like, oh fuck yeah, this undercut, I'll look like Peaky Blinders or fucking like Ed Hardy from like whatever the fuck. And then I look like Kim Jong-un after, you know, because it's like the wrong fucking, that's what I'm saying. It's like, it's like a manual for, it's like being given a car manual for a sedan, but you drive a fucking van or a boat. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's always been a struggle is that I can't really trust advice from these people that don't understand where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
You know,
that is a big thing, and that's actually a great perspective of how we should have seen it growing up. Because that was actually a really perfect way to put it. Because when you go into the world, nothing prepares you for being Asian. Because no one in this world, no one in America will prepare you for that moment.
Especially in Utah.
Especially
Utah,
your
too.
parents don't know much.
Because your parents can't help you because they're just working, you know. And then you go into the world, you go fight these battles, and they don't understand that you're fighting these battles.
Nope.
And they're getting mad at you because they don't know what's going on with you. And
100%, dude.
you know, and so like,
they don't know. Yeah.
And like that's why I didn't get a haircut. I didn't start consistently getting haircuts until after 18. Because I just didn't trust anyone to cut my hair. Because every time I would go in, I say, hey, this is how I need it. Fuck it up. They keep fucking it up. And I was like, all right. And then I finally met like a barber at 18, and I started paying like $100 a week. And I was like, damn. But then it's like you gotta pay for it though. That's when you start learning. You can't just go into Great Clips every time and like I want this, and they're like, well, that's above my pay grade, so I'm gonna give you what I think is close enough.
Yeah,
right.
I was with you. I started getting haircuts in like high school too, though, and they were a grip.
Yeah.
$40, $50 at least.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But that was like
then it
full
was a lot.
service. That was full service too, though.
Yeah.
Like $100 full service, facial, everything.
Yeah,
so.
I forget. Yeah, you probably had a beard.
Damn, you had a nice,
I have a beard though, so
Yeah,
that's, I had a beard
that.
at 16, so it was like
Yeah,
I needed to get this always cleaned up.
Totally. It's worth it though, man. You know, like that's why I think fashion and investing yourself in that way is super worth it. So you can feel comfortable in your own skin, you know? And that dude, that shit you just said about like your parents.
Yeah.
Ooh, that sucks, dude. So have you guys heard this? Have you ever heard of a third culture child?
Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
What
So, like,
what is that?
What is that? I've heard of that.
So to just like, so the concept is that if you're from like a first generation family, right? Your parents are the ones that immigrated here.
Yep.
There's the culture that you're being put in, right? Geography. So just us,
America.
it's Utah. It's so much of what we're talking about. So there's American culture. There's all of these values about individualism, like yada, yada. But then you have your second culture, which is at home, which is all the traditional stuff that they're bringing from whatever country they immigrated from, all of those traditions, whatever religions they are. And the idea is that the third culture is what guys like us have to go through, which is, how do you take culture one and culture two and find some kind of harmony, hopefully? Or, you know, my process now is I can just like pick and choose what I do and don't like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like even with other religions, like Mormon culture, I'm like, dude, I think being a virtuous person that's community-based is a thing that I subscribe to. Like I think that's authentic to me. I would prescribe this. All of those other things that start coming into play, like these rules that like X, Y, and Z, not just Mormons, right? Catholics, like whatever it is. I'm like, all right, those aren't for me. Same thing with my, you know, culture, like my Filipino culture. You know, like I always really struggled with the idea, you know, there's this concept that you're so indebted to your family and your mother. There's like this eternal debt to your parents that you know, when you start making money and you're successful, it's like all of that should go back to your family, which like I still do and believe in, but then it's hard because you can't really progress your own legacy in that sense. Right. Because you're taking care of this village and you're kind of labeled as a selfish person if you start doing things that like your parents say they don't approve of, right? Like me not becoming an engineer is a selfish act because I've compromised, you know, the success or the security of my family because I'm willing to go and risk it and become an artist or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So it's like finding this weird balance of like, okay, I believe in individualism, but I do believe in like running a good home or whatever it is. So I think my version of like a third culture right now, how do you marry like Southeast Asian principles with, you know, kind of U.S. capitalist, like whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I think my version is that I think what it takes is I have to find and build my own community, right? And that's my individual aspect. I can curate the kind of people that I want to support and the people that are around me and build capital and build leverage and make sure they're successful. You know, like I was telling literally who I partner with, Ellie, in Downhouse, our creative director right now. I'm like, dude, I want you to get ahead in life. You know, I believe in that. Like I want the people around me to almost have an unfair advantage in life by knowing me. That's something I really believe in. But that really takes a level of selfishness to where that means I need to do a lot to build up these things and not give it away quite yet, you know? But that's hard, man, because I go through like kind of what you're talking about. It's like our parents don't get that in that way.
Nope.
Yeah.
They don't know what it takes to like be out here and like build that same legacy, right? They're kind of in survival mode. But when you're surviving, like you almost have more to worry about. Now you have to worry about like legacy, like who you are you a good person, like all of these other things. It's not black and white, like is there food on the table? It's like, dude, am I wasting my life right now? You know, like I don't know, man. It's wicked. But I'm glad we can relate on that, you know.
It makes a lot of sense because my dad, he never got the chance to kind of do his thing. Like his American dream was a sandwich shop. And I was like, and he still like even talks about it till this day. And I'm like, yeah, we'll make it happen for you. But when thinking about like him at 29 and me at 29, he was like, no, hell no, I can't.
12-hour shifts.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't think they had the opportunity to do so. And it's kind of like unique for us to kind of have that pain almost.
Totally.
So I think it's kind of something that a lot of us had to wrestle with. And even our parents have to like kind of come to understand. Because I give my parents, and I'm the youngest too, so I might have some like leverage here, but they've gone a long way to kind of understand me in a weird way that I think is like, I hear a lot of other Asian kids say, you know, they did kind of have those expectations of me wanting to be medical field, you know, or like science or like something kind of prestigious.
Yeah.
But then they knew from the get-go, it's like, oh yeah, this kid's kind of a dummy, but he's very like, but he loves what he loves. So we're going to kind of like figure it out with him. So I kind of give him a lot of credit, but you know, it's kind of different generations deal with a lot of different things, especially for them having to deal with Asian American kids where we like have a completely different culture.
Yeah, it's like cultures
had.
either clash or coexist.
Yeah.
Totally.
And that's one thing. Like it's it's one thing that I think about almost daily with my friends because they don't quite understand where I come from as an Asian American kid, and then them coming from like African American or just regular American, because they're just totally different roles.
Yeah.
There's just things that they would never think of, and there's some things I would never think of on their aspect. So there's a lot of misunderstandings and miscommunications, and I just find it's like I said, we're growing, and as you learn, like, who are your friends and who do you have to let go of? It's so much for me sometimes.
Yeah. It's cool. It's cool how you framed it though. If your parent, because my mom does the same thing. I love this concept that, you know, growing it's a dialogue. It's both ends, you know, because there's kind of this notion that your parents should be the one that guide you through whatever. But, you know, like as a dad, like it's true, dude, like your kids teach you so much about yourself and yada, yada. So your parents being able to accept that is huge. I think my mom did the same thing, right? Like, no, she's not cool with me having face tattoos or any of that. She like definitely thought that was like the death of our fucking family name. You know what I mean? But like,
But they look good, Mom.
Yeah, they look good. No, she'll literally be like, she's like, you know, your tattoos don't make you more handsome. You know? She's like, girls don't like you just because you have tattoo. I'm like, one, you're wrong, but two, like,
I was about to say.
you know what I mean? Like, you're wrong, but like the second part of that is like, you kind of get an opportunity to challenge your parents' notions, right? Because I'm like, all right, well, what about tattoos are you so worried about, right? And then it's being affiliated with gangsters, all of this stuff, bad people, right? Like so much of it is just about, I want my son to be a good person, right? I want him to like be good for the family and the community. And she sees that through me still, even in spite of having tattoos. So more and more, she's kind of like disconnecting those associations in her head of like, okay, like, no, you don't need to go to fucking medical school to do what I hope it gives you, which is a way to provide for your family, a way to be prestigious and respected. That's what they want.
Yeah.
Right. And I talked about it earlier, but there really is this debt when you have parents that immigrate to America, because it almost feels like you have to live life for two people, right? You have to live a fulfilling
100%.
life for yourself. Yeah. And then it's almost like the notion is that your parents gave up their opportunities to give you it. So you almost have to fulfill your potential for them as well. Yeah. So it's this weird, like, oh, fuck. Like, that's why there's so much at stake of, I don't want to risk not being successful, because then it's like my parents wasted their lives surviving and immigrating over here and taking that chance for me is the idea, you know? And I guess like how I've learned to challenge that is like, I really don't think my mom would do that if there wasn't a level of enjoyment and fulfillment she was getting just in the process of. Like, she's still experiencing life in America and getting privileges she didn't in the Philippines.
Yeah.
She's still making meaningful connections here. And, you know, like even throughout the survival, we had so many beautiful moments that we got to bake in, right? So it's not this all or nothing game of like, you're not a doctor, this was all wasted, you just wasted 200 years of our family name, good fucking job, right? Like that's not that's not the case, you know what I mean? But dude, that's all stuff like, this is me turning 30 in 2 years, just getting there, right? In those formative years of like, no one, like you guys are saying, understanding like what's at home for me, like home saying this is bad, outside world making fun of me doing this. Like, it just, dude, how do you find your fucking footing anywhere? You know
I
what
agree.
mean?
Did you feel like you had a lot of pressure growing up?
Yeah,
Like,
hell yeah.
did you always think of that in the back of your head? Like, damn, I don't know if I can do this for my mom and dad. I don't know if I can do this for my mom.
Yeah, a
Like,
lot.
type of thing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pressure there as Asian Americans. Like,
That's how I feel.
we were speaking about, you do feel indebted to your family. It doesn't matter. Like, and growing up feeling that way, you always feel like, man, I really have to do something with my life. I really need to figure it out.
Dude.
It really just took me until recently to be like, all right, mom and dad, chill. I got this. Whatever is going to happen in life, I'm going to make sure I succeed to the point where you guys got this. But I just need to figure myself out.
Yeah.
And it was recently, one day we're like, you know what? We trust you. And when I finally heard those words, I was like, I can do it.
That's like the I'm proud of you moment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Trust is crazy.
Yeah.
That's a big deal, man.
It's like I didn't take the same. I dropped out of middle school. Like I only did like maybe
1 year of high school.
not even 1 year of high school.
Yeah, I know,
Like
you got kicked out.
my first year of high school, I was there for maybe 3 classes, and that was because I was playing football. And then when my parents took me out of football, I was like, I really don't want to go to school.
Yeah.
That was the one reason I really wanted to be in school. Was like I wanted to do sports.
Yeah.
Especially in Portland, where you have options to go to Oregon, Oregon State, Portland State, all these schools there. And that was taken away from me because they believed that just get an education, go to college, do all this stuff. And when you're a kid, you don't really know how to explain, even as a teenager, you don't know how to explain that you suck at school.
Mm.
Like,
They don't. Yeah.
Like
Totally.
they don't know what being dyslexic means. They don't know what
Right.
They don't know what all these
They don't know what
things
depression
mean.
is. They don't know what
ADHD,
they don't.
like all this stuff. They go rub some fucking Tiger Balm on you. Figure it out tomorrow.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Mine was Vicks Vapor Rub, dude.
Vicks Vapor Rub.
All over the chest.
Same shit, bro.
Yeah, I had pneumonia and she did that. She's like, you put the Vicks in your socks and then,
In your socks.
tomorrow you're okay. She just didn't want to pay the
She
fucking
probably put it on your
medical
tattoos
bills,
when you were
dog.
sleeping to get it removed. She's like,
Yeah.
so be gone tomorrow.
Seriously. Man, dude, I resonate with that pressure though. Well, especially that relationship at school. It's what we said, right? Like they're trying to give us a rule book for just a whole other game, right? They're describing school as this like zero-sum game. Like you don't graduate, like you're gonna fucking like wither and die, I guess,
Yeah.
But B, like our relationship with school is so different. Cause same, like I drop out of college. I almost fucking failed high school. They just hooked me up. And not doing well in school, in their head, it's like, well, then you're obviously involved in crime. If you're not doing well in school, what else are you gonna do?
Yeah.
But the truth was I like left school to like watch anime or something. You know what I mean? Or like what I know now have bipolar too. But at the time, like manic depressive or therapy or any kind of mental illnesses are just like an urban legend to them, So they're telling you just not to think about it when there's this very real thing to navigate this thing, It's like saying like, hey, just go sit on that couch there and you're good, but there's no couch in the room.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you're just like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? And it takes like up until now to finally teach them like, hey, this whole time I've been in a different room.
Yeah.
And when you say to look here, it's a different thing. And that's kind of the trust is they just need to first acknowledge we operate in a different world than they do.
Yeah.
Like culturally, even if it wasn't culturally, time-wise, like shit is just so different for us,
Yeah.
And that's why like the community aspect of what we do, I think is so important because it's so healing, like just this moment. Like imagine this conversation, listening to yourselves 10 years ago, 20 years ago, so much would have been different just knowing that it's like a thing that's not just about you, right?
Yeah.
It's this idea that you think you yourself are broken, so there's no point in healing it or fixing it.
Right.
But when you're like, oh, there's this collective issue that we're all kind of figuring out and we kind of just need to talk to each other. And now it's cool because all of that stuff kind of means something now. Because all of those moments where you did do that, like go against the grain, follow kind of like your own rule set it can be shared, right? It's this, what is it? It's this archetype called like the wounded healer, right? Just this idea that who else can heal an affliction better than the one that had that same affliction? So I think now like having a kid and then also being in the space that we're in, like, you know, as soon as, you know, a person of color or just any creative that feels ostracized graduates high school is kind of looking, there's so many people willing to just like, yo, I know what you're feeling right now. I fucking got you. I promise. Like, this is worth it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I like that because for us, building this community with Off the Menu, we want to kind of highlight the, you know, culture of the Southeast Asians, you know, and there's not too many that lead by example when it comes to especially Laotian culture. Like, it's either you're Thai or they don't know what you are, right? And so we spend a lot of our time,
Vietnamese.
or Vietnamese. But for us, when you try to explain what Laotians are, well, it's like, okay, well, we're kind of like the bad people that left Thailand, and we have our own slang. We speak different, but we do speak the same. But it's like, you know, and so when you have to explain that growing up, it's like, all right, then. Have you watched like King of the Hill? Yeah, I'm the neighbor. I'm the neighbor. You know,
What ocean?
or Jeffrey Dahmer. Like, everyone knew the Jeffrey Dahmer story. So like when people like from the Midwest would come like to Portland, they would talk about this stuff, and I'll be like,
Oh, Jeffrey Dahmer tagged.
yeah,
Laotian kid.
Yeah, that was one of his
Oh, I didn't
biggest
know that.
cases. Yeah,
I didn't know that. Yeah.
You go watch the
lobotomy, dude.
go watch the docuseries. It's pretty crazy. It's
I don't like
kind of
watching that
disturbing,
stuff
but
sometimes, yeah.
It's a little
you know,
heavy.
it's like that's our introduction to the world was Jeffrey Dahmer. You know, freaking sexual assault, rape, murder. You know, all this shit happened, and it happened to a Laotian kid, right? And so, like, when you try to explain that to people, it's like, well, that's where my people come from, right?
Jeffrey Dahmer.
That is rough. Yeah, the Laotian thing, that King of the Hill bit's what I remember too. Making people make fun of
Laotian,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, well, they're just like, are you Chinese or Japanese? And they're like, I'm Laotian. Like, so you're Chinese. Like, there's only two options.
Yeah.
Asian, but I get what you're saying. That representation is so important. Like, like Laotians and then even Asians as a whole, like 10 years ago, the only time Asians are represented is either you're a kung fu master or you're the fucking guy from The Hangover, like running around talking about how small his dick is. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like
that, bro. I hated
me
that.
too, but that was our only two representations. And you kind of can't blame people for the arrogance because like that's the media they can consume. It's not that they wake up, they're like, dude, fuck Asian people. It's just that they're just kind of being introduced to the wrong bits of information, and then they have to fill in the rest of the pattern. Like, it's a very human thing. But that also means that there's a very simple solution, which is just more stories should be told from those groups. Like, they just need more representatives. Like, have you guys thought about this? One of my favorite movies for like Asian representation is Everything
Everywhere all at once.
Everywhere All at Once.
Yep.
And this was the same year that I think Shang-Chi came out, right? And I think they're good to contrast because I think people see Shang-Chi, they're like, oh, finally Asians are getting representation. But it's kind of the wrong one. It's like, dude, you're doing this ancient culture that isn't really relevant for an Asian American. But
I mean, sorry to cut you off.
No.
I'll challenge it because it was the first time, like, and I love kung fu movies. I grew up on them, right? But it was like the first time we kind of got inserted in something mainstream.
More so,
I agree.
I think more so what it did was take away the fact that it's not just Asians in kung fu or fighting. It's now we're being introduced to a Marvel universe.
Superheroes.
Yeah.
Big on Stan Lee wrote this. Like, it was something that people were able to see, but then also the takeaway for me in Shang-Chi was that there was no Asian representation. There was nothing true to the point. You know what I mean? But then also you have to look at it and be like, well, then it's also but just a fictional story, so it didn't have to be really true to ourselves.
That's what I like because I love fantasy.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to. And for me, I'm not like, I think representation is important, but we don't always have to be too in your face with like culture and culture.
I
It's like
agree.
us being there is enough for a younger generation of people.
Yeah. Well,
but
here's
us
why I
in
want,
explaining though why we're here. That's where we need to go. That's where we have to lead by example now.
Yeah. Well, here's why I wanted to contrast them. Because when I contrast Shang-Chi and, Everything Everywhere All at Once, I'm saying they're both good to have the representation for us. Like, we're in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That does a lot for being acknowledged as like a culture and how much beauty is behind there. And that it's in that same A-list, like, this is high fantasy. This is like really beautiful, like, fantasy fulfillment. But then I think the other important gap to kind of fill in is that, the other movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once, it's nothing to do with Asian people.
Yeah.
It just happens to be a cast of Asian people, but the story is based in just like humanity. It's something that every culture can identify with. And I think it's a case of what you're talking about, where the culture isn't at the forefront of it, but in a weird way, it does good. Like it does us justice in the sense that like, oh, other Asian people deal with that shit too. It's like whole nihilistic
It's like
journey.
that middle class in general.
Yeah.
And then it's Asians representing it where we all kind of fit in.
Right.
Almost. Yeah.
Especially my sister is lesbian too. So that the interaction between her and her mom, I was
bet.
like, it's like watching my sister and my mom. Like it's like
Totally.
those kind of like little tidbits of just like not even just culture, but just how families interact with each other.
Yeah,
I was
dude.
like, that's important to see.
Right.
Because that's how my mom is.
Yeah.
And it's not just like, oh, my mom's bringing a Chinese person and she hates me for being gay. She doesn't like, it's not in your
Not
face.
Jackie Channing you.
But it's not Jackie Channing you, but it's like, it was just kind of beautiful to see the interaction. It was like, it hits
Right.
at home.
Well, that's why that bridge is important, because now people that aren't Asian, but they do have those interactions with their mom because they're lesbian or same thing. There's someone lesbian in their family. They're like, oh, fuck. So it's just like us.
Yeah.
I think that's the moment a lot of people need to really kind of relate to other races and cultures. It's like, okay, dress is different, sounds different, these are different. This is all the same. Like everyone wants to be loved, all right? Like everyone wants to give
The
love.
core
Like
pieces.
it really is. It's like a core issue, right? And that's what that movie's tackling. And I think it's really cool to kind of teach people that, to where it's like all of these other cultures hold a piece of your puzzle. I think it's that depersonalization to where it's like, why do I need to learn about Asian culture? I live in fucking Utah. It's kind of like that. It's like, well, dude, you told us you're struggling with this. Like you don't feel authentic. You don't feel whatever. There's a lot of like Eastern philosophy teachings that help you do that deep work. That's why there's so many people that do yoga in America. That's why people do whatever. Each culture has like kind of a piece to teach you. And it feels good to be acknowledged as one of those ones where like, oh, there's something sacred and sought after from even my home. And then now it's a gratitude thing. Like now that's kind of that's the shoes I walk now with my background and my upbringing, to where like, dude, I'm so fucking glad I had the culture I had at home, because it gives me an edge in everything I do now.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
100%,
Like
yeah.
that empathy, that ability to like look at someone else and be like, okay, I know what it's like to be in your shoes has given me an edge in business. It's given me an edge in fashion and art. Right. It's given me the sauce I wouldn't have had if I did have a privileged life, you know. I'm figuring it out too, babe.
Didn't understand
That was crazy. It's like, let the man
it's a deep
cook.
concept. We're getting there. You know?
AI hasn't learned that yet.
Yeah, it's like
Does not compute yet. Does not. They don't have humanity yet, so we're not there.
Totally.
She's like, empathy?
Ooh, that's deep. Yeah. What?
the emotion.
But also, I would like talking about the movies too. Like there's a recent movie that came out. It was premiered at Sundance, DD,
DD,
and I think it has a really good representation of how we were when we were kids in 2008, 2007, because that's when that movie takes place.
I gotta watch it. Man.
And
What's DD? Give me the
so
synopsis.
DD is
that the AI?
No.
No.
DD is a movie about a Taiwanese kid who's trying to
Asian
figure
kid.
out his life, but in the era where it was transitioning from like MySpace to Facebook. Right, so it's like the way they were texting, like T9, all this stuff, like everything what we went through as children or like even teenagers, skate videos, like all
that
YouTube,
stuff.
the beginning of YouTube,
basically.
like this was the beginning of a lot of
Oh
things.
yeah, he's posting on there. Okay.
Yeah. And so it was transitioning, and then for me, I was just sitting there, I was like, dude, I went through all this. I went through an identity crisis. I didn't know who I was as an Asian American kid. My parents wanted me to be this, and his mom's not even a typical Asian mom. His mom was like, I live with my in-laws. I have to take care of them, take care of my kids. My husband still lives in Taiwan to make the money so we can live in America so you guys can have a better life. I'm trying to be an artist. She wasn't a typical mom. So she understood. She's like, do your thing. And like, I love you. I want to be here for you, but you also have to respect me, because he didn't respect her. At one point in the movie, he was just like, why do you keep drawing? Your art sucks.
Damn.
And so for me, I was like, damn, dude. Like I felt like that when I was growing up, but from my mom.
To me, I'd be heartbroken.
Yeah,
bro.
that would be heartbroken.
But it's really just a coming of times, good heartfelt movie. And like when we're talking about Asian representation, is like, damn, as an Asian American kid, this movie really hit because I felt everything that he was going through, and it really unlocked a lot of nostalgic memories for me.
I need to watch that. I got the free trial on
DIDI, right?
Yeah, DIDI, his little brother,
yeah.
Taiwanese. So yeah, if you guys haven't checked it out, if you guys want to understand what Asian kids were going through, and at a certain time, and why we are the way we are, it kind of like puts it in a good perspective. Like, okay, this is how we were thinking back then, because no one understands the ongoing battle. Everyone has their ongoing battle, but being made fun of for being Asian, like we never made fun of other people for being whatever.
Yeah.
You know, we were always
No,
the
yeah.
bottom of the barrel of it. It's like, you guys are Asian, you guys are this. But it's like,
Yeah.
but how do we combat that? Right. But
yeah.
we combat it by having internal affairs of ourselves, ongoing battles of ourselves in our mind. And it created some monsters. And that's why
It's crazy.
that's why we're now put into the positions we are now. Like, this is who I am. I am Asian American. Try my food. This is the food. And now how we talk about like the culture aspect. My culture aspect is like, Southeast Asians, we're always going to feed you. You can be someone new to the home. That's the first thing my parents will always offer. You hungry? Come sit down and eat.
That's how it is. Yeah.
So because of that, that's what I take with me. We have a podcast. I'm like, hey, if I had a home to cook and do the podcast still, I would cook for you before the podcast, before we even start talking.
Actually, I have a question for all you guys because you just made me think about it because I didn't like struggle with like Asian identity until I was a teenager.
Okay.
Did you guys have it like early when you were a kid or
Right when,
I had it pretty early.
right out of the
pretty
womb.
early?
Yeah.
Right out of the womb.
He's right at the
Mine was earlier. I think mine is when it started getting pointed out, which was middle school. Yeah, I think
junior
it's
high.
when other people
school
taught
for
me
sure.
being Asian was something to be ashamed of, is what it felt like.
Yeah.
Right. But in Southern California, it was just kind of whatever, right?
Yeah.
We had a bunch
Yeah.
of other Asian people around us. I think it was the moment like someone started making fun of my eyes or how my mom talks or anything like that. And then, yeah, it's a learned thing, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I didn't like start to get self-conscious about it until I started liking girls.
That's exactly what happened for me.
Ooh,
That's
that was the
exactly
hard
what
part.
happened for
Shit.
me. Oh
Yeah,
God.
Because like when I was in elementary school, I was always the kid I was drawing. I was really good at drawing Dragon Ball Z characters.
You were a typical Asian kid.
Typical Asian kid, right?
You had the
I saw
blueprint.
it as a strength too, and plus when we would play pretend out in recess, I was automatically Goku. Like it was like I had a spot. Like I was prime time.
Lucky you. I was Boo.
That's kind of tough.
Oh shit! Dog.
He is the strongest villain, but
But then what was the moment though?
Well, it was like middle school. You know, that's when like I was funny too, so I kind of was able to kind of hang out with the more popular kids. I was fortunate for that, but then nobody wanted to date me. There was even one girl in 7th grade. She was like, I would like JV, but he's Asian.
Wow.
I'm like, what the?
It's like
fuck?
that,
Yeah, and then but then there was also one really weird time. It was like 7th grade party. It was like the first like makeout party I was ever at.
No.
But
Makeout
then-
party.
Yeah, like you know,
I don't even know what the hell those are. What?
no kids in
Brother,
the basement
what?
making out.
I didn't even know that
7
was a
minutes of
thing.
heaven type beat.
Kind of thing, but yeah,
It was everyone's
openly
making
doing-
out?
Yeah, but then there was this one chick. She wasn't like my type, let's say that. But she was like, "I'll make out with you, Chinese boy." I was like, "What?"
Chinese
the
boy's
f-"
crazy.
I was like, "What the fuck?" I went upstairs after that. I was, I don't even know how to take that compliment, but it was kind
Compliment.
of it was technically a compliment because she said
Yeah,
yeah,
she
but
would've-
I was like,
But
yeah,
the
shit.
underhanded, yeah.
It was backhanded. It was
It is
like-
backhanded
it was
because
always
I've had that
backhanded, yeah.
before. I think early days, like years and years ago on Tinder, I had someone literally, their first line was like, "Damn, you're kind of hot for an Asian dude." Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but
yeah,
dude,
yeah.
but that does a lot for your psychology because it teaches you your ceiling is always going to be below, you know, and that does. Dude, that fucks with your inner psychology.
I
so
try
much.
to tell all young guys is like their minds are just not there yet.
That shit be
Because
bad.
like I after high school and everything, that's when I kind of did like stop like seeing that ceiling. It's like, oh yeah, it's just the person's like kind of at least perception of you, or at least like how far they're able to think about what they're
Yeah.
attracted to. But then it was a struggle back in middle school and high school for sure.
It's funny because I relate on the sense of I didn't have that issue till I started liking girls, and these girls were like the white boys that were good at sports and had a lean body, and I was like, yeah, I wish I had nice luscious hair like a white boy. I had that.
You had a
ongoing-
fro.
I had an ongoing battle with myself when I was that young, which was bad. Like I wish I was white at one point.
Oh,
Like I wish I was a white kid at one point.
I wish that too.
Yeah, because I thought the girls would like me. That's what it was. I swear to God, I had that issue.
you just had to
I
wait
was
to
a-
be 6'2".
I was a simp, bro. I mean,
Once you hit 6'2", it was like,
I was 6'2" fucking sophomore year.
yeah.
And after I moved from West Jordan to Hunter High, actually, yeah, I did change. I was like, yeah, I'm that guy.
A little different.
Yeah.
See?
But
It's
it was like
easier when
ju-
you're a 6'2" Asian.
It was like
you're
junior
noticeable.
high to like sophomore year where it was like, I don't know who I'm friend. Like I know who my friends were, but I had no Asian friends.
Yeah.
Mm.
I had people I grew up with, but like obviously as you grow up, I tell this to my friends all the time. I grew up, my parents would take us to Tay's house, Liam's house, Moose's house, and we'd all hang out. And this is when we're like 8, 9, and they're older than me, so the teenagers weren't hanging out with me, but I'm hanging out with the people my age. When you get that age, we're in junior high, and you make your own friends. and my parents are going out every weekend to their house. Like, you can come. I'm like, no, I have my own friends, and so they're not home. I'm doing hood rat stuff with them, you know, doing crazy stuff and all that jazz. And it's like when we're trying to hang out with girls, that's when I would have that problem. I would just have that issue of like, damn, these girls don't like me because I'm Asian. I hated that.
Yeah, I knew about it really young. This is before even liking any girls, because like I went to a pretty like predominant like white school in Oregon, and we lived on the good side of Oregon. This is like before we moved to Portland, where it was all minorities and where I felt like I fit in. It was just all white kids. Yeah, Avril Lavigne, all that shit was going on. Like, I'm telling you, out of the 12 like boys in our class, all 12 of them, except for me, changed their last name to Levine. They would write on their homework. They would do all this stuff, and I didn't really feel like I fit into this culture.
Is that a real thing?
Whoa,
dude! Yeah, people loved it so much. They would change their last names and like put it on there. The teacher would pissed off because she's like confused about what's going on. Why is everyone putting Levine at their last name? But then I started to realize like I really didn't fit into this crowd where like I had this notion where like I needed to be part of this fan base. Yeah. I already had to change my first name to Tay. So like that was really early on because I was getting made fun of for that.
Shante?
Yeah. I was getting made fun of.
I can see that. I can see
dude, I was getting made fun of and this was kindergarten. This girl walked up to me. She goes, ew. And then I was like, what the hell is going on? Why is people making fun of my name? Right? And I was like,
kids are ruthless.
I didn't understand. I didn't understand. And then when I was like, you know what? I went home that night. I was like, I'm putting Tay on everything. And then the funniest thing too is like the next day she's like, well, the teacher's like, how come you just want to go by Sean? I'm like, his name is Sean, his name is Sean, and his name is Sean. I'm gonna go by Tay. So that's okay.
I like that you did that as a child.
It's funny because my mom is like, what is going on? Why does everyone keep calling you Tay?
He said, your name is Sean Tay.
I was like, I changed my name, Mom. All right, that's who I am now.
Changing your name's so powerful. Renaming yourself, because my name's Alan. My name's Alan Patrick. So anyone Filipino knows Kuya. Kuya's not even a name. It just means like older brother.
Yeah.
But that's what I go by because I kind of did that to do the opposite, to like re-alienate myself and kind of like reclaim, I guess, the culture, you know, because that was my journey with that too. All those ways that othered me, like being Asian, being whatever, it like did mean girls were less likely to go for me or like all of these different reasons to be made fun of. But, you know, specifically for me, especially with fashion, I think going like dressing alternatively, tattooing my face, all of these stuff, I was almost like if I was going to be alienated or treated like a monster anyway, I might as well look like one. Was like kind of the darker end of like stretching my ears.
That's badass.
You know, stretching my ears, being like whatever, like fine, like this, I'm going to be treated like this no matter what. So might as well be on my own terms.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm going to dress extremely. I'm going to do all these things. And then like in a weird way, like I kind of turn it to my superpower, right? Because now, you know, I guess back in the context of girls, right? Like the girls that did end up liking me are ones that want to date someone that's more extreme or different or piss their parents off. It's like, hey, you bring me home, I look like a drug dealer or whatever it is. You know what I mean? But I turned that into my superpower because originally it was like those same reasons as why I was getting like passed up or whatever it is. It's like you look too different than anyone else. But then, you know, especially if you're someone that can have anybody, it's like, are you really going to just keep going for these cookie cutter people? Yeah. Right? Like, especially, you probably feel this, bro. Like, especially in the fashion industry, it's like you're so conditioned to be around the most beautiful people physically, like all the time.
Yeah.
His mind's
you feel me? Like
he's like, hell yeah.
Like, so you're like the way that you're attracted to people, your taste kind of has to evolve to where it's like, okay, you're pretty. Everyone here is like, what else do you have going on? It's like it's your lore, it's your personality, it's your confidence. And then in that way, like, dude, I was definitely that person that was getting passed up and like friend zone. And now it's like, I'm good. You know what I mean? Like I'm all right, like getting girls, but it's because all of the work was put on something else. It's like, how do I turn all these weaknesses into like a power? And I think people feel that from me. So of course it's attractive, right? It's like, damn, I don't see this from other people, right? Or like being an activist or what we do. Like, I think there's this weird idea that being aloof or not caring about stuff was cool, but I actually don't think that, right? I think people are really surprised by me still being a really compassionate and kind person, even though I like dress like, you know, like what, like this way, right? Like this person that's supposed to be off-putting. And I think even those contrasts, those are all ways that you just kind of disrupt the pattern for people. And, you know, especially in our, like, as you get older, if you're dating the same kind of person over and over and over again, there's something refreshing about meeting someone that's completely new. So like in those ways, it kind of helps being Asian, you know, or these things. It's like, yo, you've been dating the same white guy over and over that's mid, has no ambitions, and like, does all this shit. It's like, are you gonna date a fucking 10th guy and expect something different, you know? And it doesn't have to be race-based, but like you should probably look for someone that acts a little different. And culturally, all the stuff we talked about, like you're just gonna end up like a different person. You're gonna treat people differently, you know? And I think that's refreshing. And outside of the context of romantic relationships, I think that's the same reason why people of color are really leading the charge artistically, not just in Utah, but always have been, just like in American history. Yeah. We just have that we have a different flair. Like we're solving a problem, you know, instead of just like filling time, right? Like it's tied to our survival that we have to turn these weaknesses into strengths. You know what I mean?
And I think people enjoy like hearing about our experience too, because that's all art is just like expressing every single thing that you've experienced in your life. So I think people like find that really refreshing. And sometimes it gets gentrified. Sometimes it gets like kind of like quote unquote taken away from us in a way. But I think it's something that we've always done. And I think it's especially in Utah, something that I've always liked, or that I like the idea of, is us kind of writing our own language. Because in Seattle, New York, California, like they have kind of their own language and their own vibe. And I knew that there was something that was here in Utah because I'm born and raised here. Yeah. And now it's finally coming to a point where it's like, oh yeah, we kind of are writing our own language. And I like the way that you tackle that, because it's like people of color, even like, you know, people just like everybody's different experiences are mixing together, and we're listening to each other. We're like hanging out with each other. We're all kind of brewing this new thing. And it's really exciting.
Yeah, dude, that's a beautiful way to put it. Like describing it as a language. And I think also people realizing there's something to mine from our language that teaches, that informs all the other ones. So for instance, like in the Philippines, we treat pronouns really differently, right? So sila is like they, them, like we just have one. One thing I learned recently, mahal kita. So it means I love you. That's our translation of it. But kita is different in Tagalog. So kita actually means you and I. It doesn't just mean you, that's ikaw. So it's this idea that love is this reciprocal thing. It's this thing that you and I share. It's not just something I throw at you. Right? So in that way, it's like a lot of languages have similar things where you just can't really translate it in the same way, but it kind of signals that there's a really deep concept here that this culture is just kind of valued a little more than other ones, right? So much so that they've written it in the way that they communicate. And you're right. I think that's what's happening in Salt Lake, right? We have a lot of these concepts that other places don't really need, right? Like you don't really need to figure that stuff out. Like a lot of this stuff we're talking about growing up Asian in Utah, it's not really the same if you're in LA, because there's hella other Asian people there. You know what I'm saying? They're like, what do you mean? Like, dude, we love dating Kevin Wentz. Like, where's your like, you know, like just go date an ABG, dog. Like, what are you talking about? Like, it's a very specific, like, you know, like tall blonde woman trying to court them is really different here than LA. So it's important here, man.
Yeah, because they're not really ABGs in Utah. No, to be frank,
not really.
There's some that think they are, and there might be. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, ABGs stay in like the Bay Area.
Yeah, I guess you might be right. I never looked at it. Yeah,
like, let's think about that. Actually, there's not really like there's Asian women here that are great. Don't get me wrong, but it's not like that. It's a different culture in that state. It's a completely different culture. Like, because if you're Asian here. And once again, this is nothing against Mormon culture, but if you grew up here Asian and you're in a good family and have both parents in your home, you're most likely Mormon. Like, honestly, or you're Catholic. Like, you're one of those things. And so it's just a different culture. I feel like ABGs are like Buddhists and they go to the temple and stuff like that.
That's our exposure though. But I don't know. I think there's so many different avenues, because everybody that's Asian here knows each other for the most part. You know a person that knows somebody else.
Yes and no.
You know what I mean?
Because like I don't know the Koreans and the Chinese that are here. I don't.
Oh, you might be right.
There's a lot of them.
I get surprised.
And there's so many of them. The Southeast Asians, I definitely know them.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize how big the Filipino culture is out here.
Yeah.
Until we started doing the podcast.
Exactly.
Because I grew up in Portland, Southeast Portland. That's where that's where we all the Asians, where we kicked it, we all knew each other, because we really had to fight it out and stick together, because it's either you're going to get jumped by someone or you're going to have to worry about someone down the street that's shooting. Like, once again, I've seen a kid get hit by a car. I've seen drive-bys. It's just me standing at one bus stop. Every day, the same bus stop. Something always happened. And then, so as an Asian American kid, you kind of stuck to your roots. You kind of found your people, and the closest things to Laotians at that time were Filipinos. And so when I came to Utah, I was like, damn, and they ain't no freaking RJs that are hooping up. There ain't no, like, there was There ain't no Filipinos that have the same names throughout the whole family, just the same middle name, you know, because that's a Filipino thing. That they all use like stuff from the Bible, or you know, like we know 3 Lloyds. You know, but they all have the same. They all have our names at the beginning,
dude. Yeah, I mean, we're out here. We've been out here. I get what you're saying though about like the exposure of Asians. I think it's more like I make that joke all the time.
Yeah.
Like whenever I do like a project with someone else Asian, I'm like, all right, dude. 1 of 3 Asians, like we got to stick together. Type shit. You know what I mean? But I think it's more that like if specifically if an Asian person say enters our scene, like Asian models, you and I are probably tapped in because I'm looking for it.
Yeah,
I'm looking for like this solidarity. But at the same time, like I've been going a lot to the Chinese supermarket on State to just eat, dude. They just grand open like 4 restaurants next to each other. It's expanding. Every time I go, I'm like, where the fuck are you guys?
Yeah.
There's like, it's all Asian people. I'm like, where are you guys elsewhere? You know what I mean?
Like, I don't see you here.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, so they're all around. They just don't really like know where to go. And it's probably a lot of people struggling with the same stuff we are. So like, how refreshing is it to like hear you, right? And just like another Asian person, you're like, dude, like I'm so alone out here in Salt Lake and blah, blah. It's like, no, you're not. You know what I mean? Like you really are not. But I don't know, man. I think it's a really beautiful thing what you guys are doing to like platform, you know, other people, prioritizing Southeast Asian people of color and just people of color. Cause those stories, just having them out there does a lot. And it's one of those things you don't really feel the impact from, you know, it's that concept of like, you know, planting seeds for a tree that your kids will enjoy the shade under, not really you. You know, and I think that's happening a lot in art and movies right now. Like, have you noticed like Y2K is really popular right now?
Yep.
That's because the people that are leading creative industries are our age. They're people that grew up with stuff and we're all seeking a sense of nostalgia. It's the same reason the 80s was popping and whatever. I really think like every 20, 30 years, those things have a resurgence in trending because it's the people that are doing stuff and have the resources too are the ones that do it, you know, in that same way that I think like 10 years from now, there's going to be like a whole generation of Salt Lake City Asian people that we won't even recognize. 100%. And in a weird way, like we probably dress them in a way without them realizing it. You know what I mean? Like, because we're giving them something to latch onto and hopefully be like role models for.
Yeah, 100%.
That's starting to be me right now. I'm starting to not notice anyone. Like
as they get older,
as I'm getting older, I'm like, when I go to these parties, I'm like, I went to a birthday party.
Who the fuck are you?
Yeah, I'm older. I know you're old when the other old person walks up to you, he's like, "What up, bro?"
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Stop. Yeah, you're like an old head now.
I knew it was gonna come. I didn't know it was gonna come this soon. Gave me a Corona. He's like, "Cheers," and I was like, "Oh no."
No, dude.
Damn, that's crazy to think about.
And then I'm just
like,
fuck. For the first time in my life, I didn't know anyone at this party, like except for the people that we came with, except for the birthday boy, right? So we walk in and I'm like, 21-year-olds, 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds. I'm like,
bunch of
Asians.
Asians.
It's crazy. That's me 10 years ago.
Yeah.
That's how old I am now. Like, I'm 10 years, 13 years older than all these kids, and I'm sitting there like, all right, old dude, give me the beer. I'm with you now.
That's pretty tight. I remember my aunt was telling me, like during Lao New Year, you had all the uncles lined up because they all kind of knew each other from the past, right? They all were lined up, all were just drinking, and then my aunt like grabs me by the shoulder. She's like, "That's gonna be you one day." Yeah. And then have you know it? That's like all us and our homies now. Yeah, it's so trippy to see.
It's scary. It's scary because obviously you have to like face your mortality a little bit. Like, but I had this 2 weeks ago. My cousin was visiting. She's 6 years older than me. She just had a baby. So we're literally in a similar living room like the ones we grew up in when I was 8 years old, watching our kids run around. And first, I'm like, holy fuck, I'm getting so old, dog. But two, it's beautiful because you kind of see, there really is that wisdom that comes of just like age, man. You see full circle and see the impact of it. And you can kind of see that what you do does matter, right? Because like all of those stories or all those things I'm saying in therapy, like I'm fixing right now with my son. You know, it's like a second chance at life in a way. Or even like culturally or generationally, you know, like these 21, 22-year-olds, dude, they're like, they're already with so many things I had to fight for. You know what I mean? Like, I got bullied watching anime. I don't know about you guys. I got hella bullied.
Well,
like,
not
you fucking
probably.
watch what?
Younger, so.
Yeah, but like dating, you know, when I was dating and I was dating younger girls, it's like, dude, they all fucking like anime. And no wonder why they like me, because now they're attracted to Asian people, bro. Like, because they fucking watch anime. So it's like, we're kind of trending right now, dog. I remember Aquaman came out and I had the longer hair. I'm like, it's my fucking dog. Like, I'm going to be a fucking menace, dude. You know what I mean? Like, and dude, it takes those things. Like, people are so impressionable. You can teach them what's good or what's bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how I felt with K-pop.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
K-pop's taking over. Yeah, that's why too. K-pop is taking over. Yeah.
I had to secretly listen to that shit. And then now,
Yeah,
it's
everyone
like,
loves that shit.
it's in the meta, so I'm all like, oh,
Yeah, it's
wow.
in the meta,
okay.
bro. There's a dating meta 1,000.
Yeah.
Holy
BTS wrote the blueprint for Asian men.
Yeah,
That's why
it's
all these
crazy.
women now are like, oh yeah, we do like Asian men.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, well, shit, I'm a little too late for that.
Yeah.
It's like I'm already married.
yeah, dude.
We don't get to reap the fruits of the labor.
It's like, she's not even into K-pop. I just got that shit, man. It's just hype.
We pulled it off, man.
But I did want to ask you, because we kind of went into a lot. When did you know that you want to kind of go into the creative space? And when did you feel comfortable of like, this is where I want to be at now?
Yeah. I mean, it's ongoing. I think I've always dabbled with the creative space. So I went to film school, but I had my kid really early. I had him at 19. So I went from graduating film school, fucking no plan, no idea what I was going to do. And graduating film school, it's like the only jobs available are really grunt jobs, which I had too much of like a pride, I guess, to take on. So I had my son, and immediately I was like, dude, I'm working at a vegan restaurant as a dishwasher. I'm like, all right, I need to make some fucking money, dude. So I took the first job I could, and I became a debt collector for 6 years. So I was a debt collector for Discover Bank. No ounce of creativity in my life. I wasn't doing any kind of art, no fashion, no whatever. And, I ended up getting engaged to my baby mama, and they were paying for my MBA, like full ride scholarship. Like I hit all these like American scripts, like, hey, this is like the American dream and the keys to fulfilling life. And again, this is 6 years of crossing off these boxes. And as I got closer and closer to, I'm like, okay, like, when does the becoming happy part come? You know what I mean? Like, I just like really wasn't identifying with my life. Like, I was going to a job I didn't love. I was like saying things I didn't even really believe in. I was just kind of getting by. So creativity and art was kind of like, it was like a necessity.
Yeah.
I was feeling this, like, I need some kind of way to participate in my own life. That's when I discovered like modeling or just drawing, or, even collecting tattoos was a big part of that. And it was just a different way of living, right? It's something that I realized no matter how much money I make, the fulfillment of creating something or being on a film set or being like a part of a fashion show, that's something I'll never be able to get chasing this world, So I think art was a remedy to just this like issue of like, fuck, dude, I don't know who I am. Like, I'm not enjoying my life. I don't feel like a participant in anything that's going on, where art's so the opposite. Like learning art, because I've only really been doing it like 3 or 4 years, right? It's like when I started Down House with my best friend, Mister, and him teaching me how to paint, like teaching me photography. Art is this cool thing to learn because it just teaches you to pay attention to things, Like, I'm like 25 years old and I never thought about like how a box casts a shadow, but painting, for you to do it, you have to think about shit like that, or fashion or any of those things. So, and just kind of chasing that high of like, dude, the more I pay attention to my life and the people around me, the happier I feel, the more time I get back in my life. Like, I feel like the way to slow down time is to just pay attention, because otherwise it just kind of fucking disappears, dude. Like when you're not living an authentic life, that many years can go by and you just kind of wake up like, what have I been doing, dude?
Yeah.
So even though I've only been in art for 4 years, it feels like my entire life has been in these last 4 years.
Yeah.
It's the most authentic version of myself. And, in terms of like chasing it to make a living or whatever, like that was never really the goal, right? I just did it and just kept chasing it and kept doing what I think was right for it. And I don't know, kind of took it day by day with like the fashion and the whatever, like getting New York Fashion Week. It's not like that was the goal. Right? Like me making clothes was almost like therapy. It was me sitting down and being like, okay, like, why is fashion important to me? Like, why, instead of painting or film or whatever, why am I going into fashion? And I'm like, okay, well, I love fashion because it's an inherently collaborative format, right? Like, the garments that I make don't really mean anything until someone puts it on. And I love that kind of relationship that I have with that art form, right? Like, someone needs to model it. There needs to be shoots. Like, I want a fashion show. I want whatever, and I need to think about, my own personal style and all of those things. And then 2-3 months later after doing that, I got recruited by Asian New York Fashion Week, right? So like a lot of my blessings weren't from me chasing them. It was more like kind of going inward instead. It's like going the opposite direction.
Right.
Like the deeper I go with this and the deeper I go with my connections, like doing the partnership of Mutiny Made for the fashion brand, you know, objectively, they're why I can make a living right now. This recent drop, like, paid all my bills, right? And at the time I got laid off 3 months ago in tech, I'm making, you know, almost $200K a year. And all of that went away in a heartbeat. So now art became my lifeline. Like, it became this privilege of like, dude, I'm glad I've been building this. It's the only way I have to live. And now it's like my whole life. It's like a blessing getting laid off because now I have to bring an intensity and like kind of a fight that I wouldn't have otherwise, right? I kind of kept it. It was almost like a situationship. I'm like, yeah, you know, I'll get to it when it makes sense. But now it's like, yo, this is it.
Oh no,
it makes sense.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I have to fucking go all in. So I guess my creative journey has always been more of like a calling instead of like it makes sense, which is great because what was making me so unhappy is all of my life decisions were just things that made sense. You know, like, okay, well, the next thing is go to college. Like, okay, the next thing is to propose to this person. We've been together 4 years. You know, none of those questions were like, dude, do I like this?
Do I want to do this? Yeah.
Do I want to do this? Like, do I see a future in this? Like, is this me? You know? And creatively, all of those questions are always at the forefront, right? Like, when we, even throwing events, it's like, do I like who I'm throwing this event with? Like, are these people I want to spend time with?
Yep.
Are these people that deserve space? Yes. Okay, then let's do it. Instead of like, yo, you know what would make a lot of fucking money, dog? You know, or like, oh, you know who's coming to town? Like, those are the people when we talk about who finishes, right? And who just like starts and then never fucking gets anywhere. That's who we're talking about. It's those people that have really shallow goals and intentions. And then they're disappointed because they like went for this really artificial thing that they're not getting. Like, are you doing this to be cool? Because like, dude, being a promoter, like, there's other ways to be cool, dog. You know what I mean? There's a lot of fucking work into this. We're putting capital, we're putting money.
Yeah.
Like, try throwing an event and 5 people show up and you put down 700 on the venue. Like, that's the reality of this shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, what they're chasing is they're looking at guys like you, like, who have figured it out. And they're like, oh, I want to be this person. Fuck you. Yeah, man. Like, I respect you. You know, like, they're looking at
Some
people
credit.
where like, I want to be this person. It's like, no, dude, like, he's him because he tapped into himself, you know? You can't copy, and people fucking know fast, dude, you know?
That was beautiful. You dropped a lot of gems in that one go alone.
Thanks, dude.
Alan
I
Patrick
blacked
going
out.
crazy.
I didn't even. You know, thanks for the question, though.
Yeah, of course, man. Yeah, hey, we love that. Once again, we love that you're able to speak to us and kind of tell us your experience, and we relate to you in a sense of being Asian American, and once again, we kind of come from the same place, so it's refreshing to hear, especially with the different path that you took.
Totally.
You know? So
yeah, there's gifts to it, man.
yeah.
Totally.
What are we at?
We're at 112.
Oh, okay, it's not bad.
Yeah.
You got anything else from Tay? Moose, you got something for him?
No, I mean, I got.
We're kind of just
You,
I
you
just
hit
like-
every single point
Yeah,
without
bro,
even
I-
having a
we
question
didn't even
for it.
ask any questions.
Yeah, I know. We didn't
Chat
have
in the
to.
vibe. It's like jazz, man. It's like jazz, you know?
Literally.
He hit us up. He was like, "What kind of questions can I expect?" And then
I know he said
we
the same
just
thing. I
ran
was
the
like,
riff.
honestly, bro, we just talk.
yeah,
Yeah, and I knew it'd be that way, but, you know, just in case.
Yeah.
And, I pushed it off. Like, we were supposed to do this last week, but I was
Yeah.
sick. And
Feel better, obviously.
Yeah, I'm feeling better. And then, too, is also, like, when I do things, I want to be there for it, you know? So even if I was like 70% in the tank, I'd still rather wait. And
Yeah.
I think that kind of supports what I said earlier. Like, I want to do stuff fully. It's also why I have 492 unread text messages right now.
Oh my god.
Because I like to tell myself, like, if I'm going to respond to someone, like, I want to give them an authentic response. I don't think that's going to cut it much longer. dude.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I just haven't.
That's
texted
a
people
record.
back,
He's
but
like, I was like, I want to give you a genuine answer.
I
so
dog.
this is-
But it's like I can't give you a genuine read right now.
I know. Dog, no, I know. I should change. I should change my ways.
It's been 3 months.
But I believe in, I believe in that. I believe in, I want to be present for what I do.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
thank you guys for doing the same thing.
No, of
No,
course, of
absolutely.
course.
100%.
We're happy to have you, man.
But we're coming towards the end of it. Then we do have a segment here called the Chef Special. It's free advice to the viewers, or if you have a recipe, you can offer that as well. Just anything
sick.
you've taken in life, any advice you've taken in life.
Kuya
Like,
chef special.
Oh man, dude, like
you gave a lot already.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
I guess I try to fit it in there. I'm always happy to mansplain about something. Though.
You do it in a very good way. Even if it is mansplaining, you do it in a way that is just like super, I don't even know what the word is, impactful.
Yeah,
So,
thanks,
yeah,
man.
yeah.
I guess here's me talking to myself a little bit. I guess I think recently I've had really kind of like an abundance mentality in terms of what relationships do I want to keep in my life? What things do I want to keep pursuing? You know, I see it a lot of people that are like 20 to 21, right? You're post high school, you've been holding on to so many friendships just based off of pure loyalty, you know, and you kind of reach that point as you discover yourself more of like, there's some relationships that don't really energize you, even though they've never necessarily done anything wrong. You see that in romantic relationships. And you see that in jobs too, right? To where it's like, you know, the golden handcuffs. It's like nothing's wrong. My boss isn't abusive. I get paid time off. I don't make the most money, but I make enough money to live. I think a really big epiphany I've had recently is it's okay to want more. I think it's okay to prioritize things that give you the most out of it, right? And sometimes, and I think that's what's gotten me to my point in my career is you kind of have to sacrifice those parts of your life that are kind of just there out of like obligation. You know what I mean? And that hurts, dude, and that totally sucks, but it's good for both parties too. Because if you're a friend and you find out the other one is just doing it because like, we've been homies for 8 years, so I just feel like I have to show up to all of your stuff. It's like, dude, just don't, you know? Like, just be honest with me. Like, go where what energizes you. Yeah. So, I don't know. Maybe there's someone that needs to hear that right now. It's a rough lesson to learn, but I think it's okay to prioritize what is like best for you, because that is what's best for the people around you too. People around you, if they really love you, they probably want you to be authentic. They probably want you to be where you're stoked about being, right? Like a girlfriend or boyfriend, like you're 8 years in and you don't even like talking to them, like maybe time to move on. You know what I mean? Like, sorry, dog. You know what I mean? Like it happens. So yeah, man, I don't know. Just ask for more. I don't think you need to settle.
Damn.
That's very true, because I'm coming to that point now where I'm not feeling fully energized as I used to be. And I know that I'm having these conversations with people and I'm like, this isn't me. Like I don't really want to speak on this, and I don't know if I want to be in this position anymore where I feel like I'm ingenuine with my presence. You know, and so I'm starting to ease off. I'm taking more time to myself. I'm starting to figure things out, and I'll be back 100%.
Yeah. Fuck yeah, man.
Yeah. It's a very important lesson to learn, especially me. I had like a core group of friends too. And it was kind of those things where it's like the dreams didn't match up, or at least like the goal, the roads didn't match up.
We don't see each other anymore.
Yeah. And there's no
hi.
bad blood, but, and honestly, no bad blood at all. But it's just like, it's just one of those things that just kind of, as you grow older, things change.
That's how it is.
Yeah. Especially guys in our position, we're like, we got a podcast, dude. We got we're like, we got a clothing brand, or we're like, we do these creative things, and not everybody can kind of understand those. And it's okay to not understand it, you know?
That's how it's happening in my group of friends right now.
Yeah.
There's just different paths. Some want to be married and have a house and have kids, and some want to have a dream and build worlds. And, you know, it's just all, I wouldn't say it's crumbling, but it's just different.
Everyone's light is shining somewhere else now.
Yeah.
You know,
and we don't see each other often, and we don't hang out anymore.
That's
Like,
good.
it's not that I don't want to.
Yeah.
But I don't got much time.
I think it's back to what you said. I think we're all creating our own language. So outside of even the solidarity we have with people of color, there's also the creative aspect of it. So like when you're someone that's building a brand, you're an entrepreneur, you're somebody that's, you know, wants to think creatively, you want to push new topics, you want to push whatever. That's a language kind of reserved for only other people that are in the craft. So when you're around people that aren't really building something the same way, it's like, it's de-energizing. You know, even if they are supportive or whatever, there's a kind of energy that's only shared when you're both speaking like a native tongue, right? You kind of have to share that kind of level of understanding and comprehension. And I think that's okay. I think it's okay to let go of relationships where that's not present. You know?
That's probably the best way to put it.
Oh God.
Well, thank you, Kuya.
Present.
Look, thank you guys.
That's amazing. Thank you for sitting with us and having this topic of discussion, and then, you know, representing for Southeast Asian men, and then also people of color as well.
Oh God.
And keep
Artists
pushing,
alike.
because I talked about Pete. I talked about this with Pete like a while back, and I was like, yo, we need to get Kuya Allen, because I see the work that he's doing.
Thanks, dog.
And he's like, I'll get that to happen right now. And then boom, we got you booked. And I was like,
Yeah, anything you guys need, let me know, man.
for sure, same.
fam.
Likewise.
No, likewise, brother.
Just be around, dude. I don't care.
Yeah.
He said, you're just handsome. I want to look at you.
I'll hang, bro. No, I mean it. You know, let's hang out.
But of course, everything will be in the description below. Thank you guys for tuning in to episode 122 Off the Menu Podcast.
Sure.
Peace out, y'all.
Play excellent, play beautiful, and play proper, stupid.
Build world.